Hello and welcome to the Eating Disorder Therapist podcast. I'm Harriet Frew, eating disorder therapist, here to support you in overcoming disordered eating and finding peace with food. So thank you so much for listening today. So today I want to talk about how helpful is Cognitive Behaviour Therapy, CBT-E, for treating eating disorders. And before I launch in, I just want to mention that I've got my new mini course, which is only £22 for 90 minutes of inspiration and tips if you love fitness but you're struggling with your relationship with food. It's called the Fitness Lover's Guide to Food Freedom, and it's inspired by a talk that I'm doing for my local gym this Saturday. And if you would like to access it, the link is in the show notes. And also, of course, I have my new Food Freedom app. Again, the link is in the show notes if you want to work with me in a very sustainable way that has daily check-ins, loads of information, content, videos. If you like my style, that's a great place to go. Or again, the link is in the show notes. And if you're on Substack, the links are here on the page. Okay, so let's talk about how helpful is CBT-E, Cognitive Behaviour Therapy, for treating eating disorders. So CBT-E is one of the most favoured and researched therapies for eating disorders. And CBT-E means Enhanced Cognitive Behaviour Therapy. Now, if you access support via the NHS, the National Health Service, assuming that you're based in the UK, you may well be offered this treatment, particularly if you meet diagnostic criteria for anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, binge eating disorder, or OSFED. The approach is described as transdiagnostic as it's relevant for several different eating disorder diagnoses. So CBT was developed by Professor Christopher Fairbairn and his team in Oxford over 2 decades ago, maybe even a bit longer actually, initially as a treatment for bulimia, but then expanded out to treat other eating disorders too. Now, length of treatment varies. If you're underweight, you're likely to have 40 treatment sessions over 40 weeks. That's probably particularly for people with anorexia nervosa. Weight gain is an integral part of this process, accumulating in a period of weight maintenance, which is built into the program. So if you have this 40-week treatment, you're encouraged to engage with this weight gain process from an empowered choosing position rather than this being imposed by the therapist. Now, if you're not significantly underweight, you'll likely receive 20 sessions over 20 weeks. And sessions can be twice weekly to begin with for all of CBT-E to gain momentum and build motivation early on. Now, of course, it's probably going to vary from service to service, the exact number of sessions and the treatment program that you're offered, but this just gives a guide. So CBT-E as well prides itself on not being a one-size-fits-all treatment. It's individualized to each client, flexing dynamically to incorporate each person's specific situation. So it's made up of 4 stages. Stage 1, this centers on psychological formulation. The therapist and client work together to establish a mutual understanding of the eating disorder as a coping strategy. There is also focus on building a stable eating pattern through regular eating and balancing blood sugar. This stage also incorporates psychoeducation and addressing concerns about weight and body image. Now, I know from my own experience of CBT-E and psychological formulation, there's definitely a lot less focus on the past than there may be in other types of psychological formulation. It's more linking the present day symptoms. Stage 2, this is a brief review stage where progress is evaluated and plans are made for future treatment before you move to stage 3. And this stage targets the processes that perpetuate and maintain the eating problem. So these are things like dissecting over-evaluation that you might possess in correlating weight and worth. It also involves problem solving around managing daily events and emotions. And it attempts to target and reduce various forms of dietary restraint. For example, missing meals, not eating enough, and delaying eating. And then stage 4 begins to shift to the future and coping. It explores managing inevitable relapses and working on maintaining changes made so far. And then a review session is normally planned for around 3 to 6 months after treatment to check in on progress and to target any additional issues remaining. So I'm going to talk now a bit more about my own experience of delivering CBT-E. So I've worked for a lot of my career in the National Health Service in Cambridge in the UK in an adult eating disorder service. Now, I trained in CBT-E early on in my career, probably around 2003. And my history and background and training comes from counselling, prioritising the relationship and being very client-centred. So therefore, for me, as much as I have valued CBT-E as a skills kind of practice to use in therapy, I've never ever been a purist. So instead, what I've always done is I integrate these skills into my overall framework, which involves my own approach, involves person-centered therapy, motivational enhancement therapy, and compassion-focused therapy. But I very much value the relationship as the main container for healing. So as much as I value and appreciate the CBT-E tools, I would personally struggle to follow a rigorous plan of sticking to the absolute specifications week by week. And that's just me. I'm an intuitive, feelings-led person and value the flexibility to lean into this when working with clients. Okay, I really like to kind of work with what's going on in the room, and I consider that sometimes being very, very directive and trying to push someone when they are perhaps not ready for a lot of the kind of really active behaviour change is not always massively therapeutic. But I think there is nuance in all of this. The criticism sometimes of less directive therapies is that people aren't making active change and the therapist is colluding and maybe we're going around in circles. So I think there's nuance in all of this. So I tend to stand for the middle ground where you can utilize these highly effective tools whilst also having the flexibility to shift and move depending on the client's specific needs. And I personally tend to work simultaneously with clients on deeper issues alongside behavioural change, which I believe can be very effective. So 5 reflections to consider if you are offered CBT-E. Number 1, motivation. So CBT-E is an action-focused therapy. To benefit, you do need to engage wholeheartedly, showing a commitment to attending sessions and completing homework tasks. Okay, you're not going to miraculously recover by passively cruising in your passenger seat and gazing dreamily out of the window. It can be challenging. Your therapist will guide and support you, but you need to have your hands firmly on the steering wheel. So you kind of need to be up for it. And for some people, this is exactly what they need. They're sort of ready for this kind of action-focused directive therapy. They love the structure. It's very, very appealing. But for someone maybe who is just not really so motivated, who's got a lot of trauma, who perhaps really needs to focus more on some of the kind of deeper things going on first, that would be my opinion. Maybe CBT is not going to be so helpful. Number 2, it's directive. So if you enjoy a directive therapy approach and appreciate your therapist initiating, questioning, educating you, you will thrive in a CBT-E session, okay, because it's very sort of directive and structured. But if you prefer to free associate through speaking aloud, working through your issues with personal reflection, whilst receiving gentle insights from your therapist, then CBT-E may not suit you as well. In those cases, you may be better suited to person-centered or psychodynamic therapy or psychotherapy sessions. Okay, so there'll be more flexibility. So if you're someone who just really likes to talk and you're very self-aware, CBT-E may not be the best therapy for you for the longer term. Number 3, the present and the future. So CBT-E focuses on the present and the future with little delving into your childhood history and possible adverse life events. So if you have experienced significant trauma, you may find that CBT-E falls short in helping you, and you may wish to seek out psychotherapy, somatic healing practices, or EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. So not to say that you can't benefit from CBT-E in these instances, but you may need to focus more on the trauma aspect first. Of course, it's very individual, and that will be a decision that you probably make with a professional. Number 4, creative tools, pictorial representations, and psychoeducation. So CBT-E can be a highly interactive and engaging therapy which can arm you with a toolbox of skills, and this can feel empowering and equip you with a therapeutic chest of delights. Number 5, the need for a skilled practitioner. Anyone can train in CBT-E. However, it is a skill to deliver effectively and to personally tailor the experience to the client. So if you have an eating disorder, you will understandably be hugely ambivalent about change and will need a skilled and flexible approach to navigate along the healing road. So CBT-E delivered in a dogmatic and prescriptive manner could potentially alienate you, and the client and trigger a shame response, causing withdrawal from treatment. So I think it really needs to be delivered with sensitivity and expertise. So how effective is it really? So the research statistics seem to vary widely. Focusing on studies in which CBT was delivered well, in inverted commas, and treatment was completed, the evidence suggests that 2/3 of clients starting this treatment will make a full recovery. Now, I think these statistics as well are reported by the Oxford team where CBT-E was created, so they're likely as well a little optimistic. The general consensus in the eating disorder therapy community is that CBT works for around 40% of people. So I guess for some people it's really, really helpful, for others not so. It's beneficial, but like most treatment options, it's no magic pill. It's not so great for clients who have experienced unresolved adverse childhood experiences. It's not always as effective for underweight clients. And clients that struggle with clinical perfectionism may also struggle with CBT-E. So anecdotally, I would say that the tools are excellent and a valuable addition to the therapy toolbox. But what do you think? Do let me know. You can leave me a comment on Substack. You can send me a DM on Instagram. I would love to know what you think. Thank you so much for listening. If you're not following me already on Instagram, do seek me out at the eating disorder therapist _. And for further support with your relationship with food, do go to the eatingdisordertherapist.co.uk. If you enjoyed this podcast, I would be so grateful if you'd follow, rate and review, as it helps it reach so many more listeners. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to sharing another podcast episode with you very soon.